Hello everybody, and this is Chaos with Chaos Esports Productions, bringing you Heart of the Swarm. So today I'm going to be going through a replay of my recent ladder games. I know I got a request to continue on making these videos, so I'm going to keep on doing it. Anyways, with the release of Heart of the Swarm, all of the ladders have been reset, and we are doing placement matches. So unfortunately I was sick when I played this the first two matches, so I'm going to just do a quick cast of the replays. This game is kind of a little bit long. I'm pretty sure during the middle section of it not a lot happened, so I'm just going to probably blaze over that. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it on my camera so I can just kind of talk through what I was thinking at the time, and everything should be set up a-okay. So, when I came in, I believe it was a Protoss versus random, so kind of going with the typical, 9 pylon opening into 12 gate and that kind of stuff. So sending out an early probe scout. Now, one thing that I have noticed with Heart of the Swarm, a lot of the early, bronze, silver, gold league play is almost 100% just like Wings of Liberty, which means you pretty much do exactly the same thing that you would do in Wings of Liberty. Now, the only caveat is you get a handful of people who are starting to use some of the newer units, so you have to kind of be aware of, how to deal with it. So yeah, so went for a 12 gateway. We scout and notice that we see their probes, so we know they're in the bottom right hand corner, so we're gonna go check it on out and then continue on building probes. But yeah, so PvP in Heart of the Swarm. Now, for the most part, in the early to mid game, it pretty much is exactly the same, like I mentioned before, as Wings of Liberty, except for now you've got this, the mothership core component in. So we go in, we scout, we don't see too terribly much, and then I wanted to go see if I could just leave him in his base and see how bad this person was, because sometimes, especially when you're doing your placement ranks, you might play somebody who is just not good, so you can get away with kind of some cheese play to some degree. So yeah, so probe gets out, everything is looking pretty good. Don't see anything too much. I can't remember what I was thinking at the time. His gateway, if I remember right, I guess I probably don't want that up, just want to keep what's on the game. All I saw was a gateway. It looked to go up at pretty normal standard time, so choose to pretty much play it out like I would, defensive 4-gate kind of play. Just get up my army, start and continue on. So we're gonna go ahead and speed this up just a little bit to get, So took my second gas after I got my second gateway, pretty standard. So a lot of times what I like to do is I like to kind of poke out with my Stalker and Zealot, just to put on a little pressure and kind of make them think, oh, this is going to be a 4-gate all-in kind of deal, when in reality it's just a, kind of to put on some intimidation and see, check to see if they expanded, and otherwise just kind of get map control. So we went ahead and chrono boosting out a observer. We can go ahead and slow it back down now. So yeah, chrono boost out an observer to kind of get in his base, see what he's doing, and then add on our 3rd gate while we expand behind it, and then just kind of build an army at home in case we see any funny play. I think if I remember right, in this game he chose to go an early Oracle, which I found, as long as you keep a handful of Stalkers back at home, it actually is pretty easy to defend off. I think the biggest thing is when you do have, main and your natural up, early on, it's kind of hard to hold off. So yeah, so just continuing to build probes for the most part, and we go in, we see the mothership core, we see a handful of zealots, and then we see our 2 oracles, and we're like, oh snap, gotta get lots of stalkers. So I go ahead and build a forge to get out my cannons and my mineral line, you know, kind of that standard. It's kind of, you kind of deal with it the same way you would deal with mutas. You know, have a cannon in your mineral lines, you're at your, you know, in your main, your natural, and you kind of just go from there. I mean, so continuing to kind of just hold my position. I'm not quite sure. You know, it says that you need 24 probes on each of your bases to kind of, you know, to be fully saturated, but I'm not sure if that still fully applies. So anyways, so yeah, warping a couple more stalkers, kind of poke him in. He takes out 1 probe, takes out 2. Now, the oracles, if you've got 2 of them, it takes 2 ticks to kill a probe. So having 2 of them obviously means you one-shot probes, which can be super deadly if you're not too careful. So you just gotta make sure you get up your stack defenses in your mineral lines, and everything should be okay. Obviously, if he does come in and choose to, you know, try to take out as many probes as possible, he's going to lose his oracles. And oracles are actually pretty expensive. I think they're like I think 125 minerals and 125 gas, something like that. I don't know right off top. But anyway, so yeah, so just kind of taking a defensive posture in the early game, especially when they go oracles, because it's, you know, it can be really, really painful if they get in, you know, you can't do anything. A little bit misclick, didn't get them to mining, but so everything's moving out. Now, I did get a chance to see his army composition. It's pretty much all gateway units plus a mothership core. We see sending his oracles back home because I didn't do a very good job, and then we notice a void ray, so we're like, oh, he's going for pretty heavy Stargate tech. So getting ourselves a little bit of pylon block, and now we looked to see that we're fully saturated on our natural. Our opponent's just gotten his natural up, so, you know, build a couple pylons to get them blocked, and then start thinking about our tech choice. So let's go ahead and speed this up maybe a little. So getting my upgrades up, kind of walking through, just trying to understand what's going on. I choose to take a pretty early 3rd, since I know I'm doing pretty good. His army's about the same size as mine. He went air, I went, you know, more or less for the standard immortal Colossus type composition at the beginning, which it doesn't get like hardcore shut down by air, but for the most part it is. You know, it's really kind of hard to deal with. So yeah, we'll slow it back down again. So yeah, just continuing to get out my upgrades. I choose to build another observer just so, you know, to help out with map vision, see when he pushes out. Obviously at this point he doesn't have any detection with him, so he really, you know, he can't see my observer. You know, I can see his army composition at all times. And it's kind of one of the bad things about going air is, like, you don't have, you know, it's a lot more difficult to keep an eye out of observers and things like that. So finally he adds on a cannon, I think, or finally gets up his own robo. I think he chooses to get a robo because he starts to get a whole bunch of immortals. But yeah, so continuing to build our upgrades and kind of get a feel for what's going on. And at this point, you know, I know he is either thinking of moving out. You know, we see the probe and we're like, oh snap. This could be a pretty good indication that he's going to be moving out here soon. So we leave our zealot there to kind of get a feel for when he's pushing out, and then we see his army move out. So we're kind of a little bit worried. We see that our army composition, for the most part, is actually, looks like we have a little bit more than he does. We don't know that for sure, obviously, in the game, but we're pretty, you know, I felt pretty confident that I would be able to hold off an attack. Um, I went ahead and built up a couple cannons just in case he did choose to try and push my third. But at this point, yeah, we still only know that he's on 2 bases. Nothing too terribly, complicated about it. We are on 3 bases, so obviously we've got the base advantage in our favor, and just looking to max out because one thing that I have noticed in Heart of the Swarms, it's very easy to get a little antsy and then just go attack and then immediately die. But as long as you can stay back and kind of build up your economy, make sure if you were to lose your entire army, you can easily rebuild it. Obviously, I'm still floating a high number of minerals as a function of being supply blocked. So I continue on getting up pylons, hopefully. Oh yeah, my natural, or at my 4th base. And at this point, I'm starting to think about doing a tech switch to air, because obviously the upper echelon units, the new what are they? Oh, the Tempest. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, the Tempest is actually a pretty good unit, especially if he were to go to Colossus. But obviously, since I realized that they weren't going air, they were going primarily air, so I pretty much stayed away from the Colossus tech and just kind of decided to go for a heavy gateway unit composition. And then obviously I've got storms on the way, and then yeah, putting down the starport to start thinking about getting my mothership and things of that nature. So we're gonna kind of speed it up a little because it's just me continue to build up my army. Obviously we've got observers around, just trying to make sure we know when he's going to come out. One thing that we don't know that I probably should have done is I probably should have scouted for 3rd at this point, to see how far along that was. So yeah, I choose to scout that 3rd first, and then get my observer completely eradicated in the process, and then I think, let's see, yeah, go ahead and get on the fleet beacon, and then I'm sitting here, I believe, yeah, I was looking to push out, but I really just wanted to get an idea of what was going on. So I sent my zealots around to try and do kind of a counterattack on his 3rd, get some pretty decent storms, but as a function of just not having all my entire army together, obviously I was able to take out what was going to be his 4th, and then I also disturbed the probe line. So I come in, I take out his mothership, so things are looking good. Obviously I've got a really big bank, and we're both more or less maxed out. But I think the reason why I'm winning over this is because I've got such a big production behind it. You can see he's still floating lots and lots of minerals, but the only reason why is because he doesn't know how to use it. So yeah, so just make sure, especially when you get into kind of the later game, you definitely want to make sure that you've got as many gateways up as you physically can. And then obviously I choose to go and get some Tempest myself because they're pretty awesome. It's like a backup unit, and they hit pretty hard. So and then I'm starting to get my own mothership. So yeah, as you can see, like, you can just look at the supply. I mean, obviously my supply is already back up to more or less to 200, and everything's looking pretty well. At this point I'm just waiting for my mothership to get finished, so we can keep moving on. This is pretty much just me waiting for mothership, and then we'll slow it back down to get to our more or less last engagement. So I come down here again to look to see if he has taken that base, and then I see him moving out. Obviously, I'm not in a very good position from a concave standpoint, but I was able to blink back and get my zealots in there. And then obviously my mothership is in a very, very, very poor position because, you know, can't do anything. So I just have to rebuild. I mean, even though he is destroying my army, he really can't do much because his production behind it is just, it's non-existent. I mean, he can't, you know, I warp in a whole bunch of zealots, warp in another round of stalkers, and you can just see the supply difference and how much it changes. So yeah, so basically this game more or less boiled down to just sheer macro. Had I not been able to have better macro in the long run, I probably would have lost this game. So then I choose to get some Archons for my composition, since I see he's more or less just building zealots and stuff. I walk in, I take out his third, and there's not really much you can do. I mean, you know, at this point, I don't know. I don't think I ever went and looked to see what kind of gateway production he had, but we'll go ahead, and since this is more or less over, we'll go ahead and put it to everybody. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, he's only got 10 gateways. I mean, whereas, you know, you come over here and you're just like, I got 12, or what is that, 16? So yeah, I mean, I just have way more production than he does. As far as, you know, he's only got one Stargate. Besides that, so I mean, he can't out macro me. Period. You know, I went ahead and tried to take went toward a fifth, but yeah, you can just see the fundamentals of StarCraft 2 really have changed in the expansion. So obviously, it's still about, you know, the fundamentals of getting up your economy, working on your macro, and understanding kind of the play out of the game, and then obviously the composition counters. So yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this first game of my quest to masters. Like I said, these are the placement matches. So as of right now, I don't know what league I'm going to get placed in, but I hope you continue on following, and hope I can teach you some more nuances of Heart of the Swarm. Feel free to subscribe to my channel, or find me on Twitter or my Twitch channel, and I'll see y'all later.